Let him speak! Let him speak!
The woke campus mob just struck again at Stanford, but their antics backfired hilariously. We're going to break this down and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our politics, and our media, all from an independent perspective. Up first, like I mentioned, we got to check in at Stanford, which you might remember not too long ago had a huge incident where a speaker spoke at the law school and was shouted down and blocked from speaking, and one of the deans actually participated. One of the DEI deans, of course, participated in the student censorship of the conservative speaker, or I guess it was actually a federal judge who was speaking. Well, there's been another campus mob incident at Stanford, and the irony this time is just delicious. As the Stanford Review reports, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers was shouted down during Stanford's Democracy and Disagreement class. Earlier today, a Stanford class ironically entitled Democracy and Disagreement hosted a debate on a potential wealth tax between UC Berkeley professor Emmanuel Saez and former Treasury Secretary and Harvard President Lawrence Summers. But what should have been a fairly standard exercise in, quote, modeling civic disagreement instead devolved into a spectacle as a few hecklers hijacked the stage for roughly 20 minutes. That's right, guys. The protesters disrupted and tried to shut down a debate representing both a more left-wing point of view and a more centrist point of view, specifically in a class about the importance of disagreement in democracy. You can't make this shit up. Like, the irony here is just so rich. More from the Stanford Review. For over 10 minutes, the protesters prevented Summers from explaining his opposition to the wealth tax. In preventing Summers' speech, these protesters threw fake dollar bills onto the stage and lambasted Summers as a capitalist who sold our country out and accused him of enabling the rise of the corporate oligarchy which has caused the rise of Elon Musk. Here is some footage from the event that shows these protesters doing their big one and storming the stage.
In the Clinton administration and in the Obama administration, top positions in both. And instead, what have you done with all of your influence? What have you done with the millions?
Get off the stage.
The tens of millions of dollars that he has made leveraging
Boo!
You have repeatedly traded in our planet and my future, all of our futures, for the sake of profit interest. And history is not going to remember this topic. History is not going to remember the fact that you held these positions. You know what's going to remember? It's actually going to remember what it's going to remember is the fact that you were one of the capitalists who sold our country out. In this time, it is literally everything that he has done and promoted throughout his career. All of the deregulation that he has supported throughout his career is actually exactly what led to the corporate oligarchy that has caused the rise of Elon Musk. So that is the speaker that Stanford has invited here today to speak as an authority on the wealth tax. Tax the rich. Tax the motherfucking rich. 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 Hey Larry, get off it. Put people over profit. Hey Larry, get off it. Put people over profit. Hey Larry, get off it. Put people over profit. Give us multiple opportunities to be more on the wrong line. Hey Larry, get off it. Put people over profit.
God, the antics are just so childish. Tax the rich, put people over profits. Wow. Now that you put it that way, how could anybody disagree with your infinite wisdom? It's so obnoxious. But guys, unlike some of these past campus spectacles, this one did not work out for the woke people the way they hoped. I'll explain after a quick message from today's sponsor. Eating healthy is a challenge for me, but I'm determined to feel better and take charge of my health in 2025. That's why I'm excited to share today's sponsor, Lumen. Lumen is an amazing tool that helped me feel better in my body, increase my energy levels, and maintain a healthy weight. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. Then, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. How cool is that? So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Brad to get 20% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Brad, B-R-A-D, for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. And now back to today's show. So guys, it's actually really heartening to see how people in attendance for this class and for this event responded to these childish protesters in a way that's quite different from how many of these campus incidents have gone down in years past. Take a look at this additional video clip.
Let him speak. Let him speak. Let him speak. Let him speak. Let him speak.
So we've got the audience cheering, "Let him speak," and booing the protesters at various points in this video recording that was uploaded to Twitter. And honestly, I can't remember many campus incidents of free speech violations and protesters trying to disrupt things where there's been that kind of a response. Now, to some extent, that may be because this was held at the Hoover Institute at Stanford, which is a conservative intellectual institution housed within Stanford. But still, a lot of these students were probably just regular students attending this class who wanted to hear the debate. That's the crazy thing. They didn't even try to disrupt a speech by someone, but a debate where there is a left-wing economic progressive professor arguing to tax the rich, and they literally still tried to disrupt it. Like, the optics, the Lulu, the arrogance is just off the charts, as if these college kids have the right to decide who's allowed to speak and who's not. You're actually not that special, love, and you have a right to make your own voice heard. If you want to protest outside or quietly hold up signs, knock yourself out, but you do not have the right to violate other people's freedom of speech and violate the rights of the attendees who want to hear, and they have a right to listen to this event. You don't get to come in and just disrupt everything like a child with your tantrums. And honestly, they deserve to be booed. And I'm glad that they weren't able to successfully stop this event, as unfortunately campus protesters have been able to stop many events in the past. This one ultimately did go forward and these students were removed. And like I said, the audience wasn't with the protesters. They were with the speakers, which maybe it's just a one-off incident, or maybe it's part of a broader vibe shift that, if you ask me, is long overdue. Ultimately, though, Stanford clearly has a problem with some of its students being wildly illiberal and authoritarian and thinking that they get to stop people from speaking on a college campus, which, of course, is supposed to be a home for open debate and dialogue and different ideas. And I think they really do have to take some pretty strict action. Like, if you want this to stop, if you want this insanity to end, the new executives at Stanford have said they believe in free speech. If they actually want, they need to clamp down pretty hard on these people. And I don't know, maybe they need to be suspended. There needs to be serious disciplinary consequences. And if they do it more than once, then certainly they need to be expelled. And you know what? Maybe if they're going to get a second chance, they should be forced to take this class about the importance of disagreement and debate in democracy. Because clearly they missed those lessons in their civics and history classes up until this point. What do you guys think? Are you surprised to see the way that this protest went down? And do you think there's a vibe shift happening? Or is this just kind of an outlier incident? Let me know in the comments, and do hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Up next, we've got to check in on the free Luigi lunatics, the protesters who are simping for and thirsting for alleged murderer Luigi Mangione, who is accused with lots of evidence, including fingerprints and surveillance videos, of murdering in cold blood United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Well, Luigi just appeared in court in a kind of a preliminary hearing, and there was a big protest that we did already talk about. But one of my favorite troll influencers, this guy, No Cap on God, went to the Free Luigi protest and interviewed these people in his kind of trollish Borat style. And it's one of the funniest, but also most disturbing and insane things I have ever seen. Take a listen to this first woman explaining why she sympathizes with Luigi because she also killed someone and doesn't think she should have been punished.
What made you want to organize this protest?
Well, I spent 26 months in prison for DUI negligent homicide, and that was after...
Respect.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was after I was the victim of domestic violence, and so the experience really taught me that whoever goes to prison is a victim first. So when I saw Luigi Mangione and I heard what was going on, I wanted...
You was getting abused, then you was having a couple of drinks to deal with your pain, and then you was driving, and then someone happened to be in the way?
Actually, I hit a shopping cart at 3 miles an hour in a parking lot, and the shopping cart knocked someone over, and he died about a week later.
Man, so it was really the shopping cart that should have been in prison, realistically.
Fair to say, or the alcohol, one of the two.
This lady is insane. What? I mean, look, she should probably still be in jail. I mean, because 26 months doesn't feel like a lot for killing someone. Obviously, it was an accident, but you were doing DUI, you were drunk driving. And more importantly, it's not giving remorse to me. She's like dapping him up, being like, yeah, yo, I did it. I killed someone too. Girl, what? Do you have no shame, no guilt? And she thinks, oh, I didn't really do anything wrong. It was the alcohol. It was the shopping cart. Girl, wow. Way to take no accountability or responsibility and show no real remorse. And I honestly, she still seems like a threat to the public. So I'm not convinced she should be out of prison at all by this. And especially because what does she do when she's out of jail? Organize a rally for an alleged murderer in support of his murder he's accused of doing. It's not giving reformed to me. It's not giving repentant. It's not giving second chance, good member of society, being reintegrated, all of which I believe in. It's giving a demon who has not changed and is still demonic. And this lady doesn't even have the excuse of youth, which is no real excuse. That some of these young people that you see at these protests or on TikTok saying insane things about how they support Luigi. It's not a real excuse, but it's at least like they're 20 or whatever. Their brains aren't fully developed. Maybe they'll still grow into sane people who will look back and feel horrible they ever said such a thing. With her, that ship seems to have sailed. And she is quite something. And so are the many other people that this YouTuber and the kind of social media troll, No Cap on God, who, by the way, I will link to his channel. You need to go subscribe to him. He's just hilarious. He says the most insane, out-of-pocket stuff, and he's an equal opportunity troll. He trolls the left and the right. You have to go subscribe to him. I will link to him in the description. But he spoke to many other Luigi Mangione supporters who gave similarly unhinged and creepy responses to his wild questions. Take a listen to this.
You have like Luigi fever though?
Yeah, of course I have Luigi fever, yeah.
Is what he did good?
It's great, actually. I believe we should do more.
Did Luigi do the right thing?
I think he did what needed to be done.
Should every healthcare CEO be unalived?
Only the corrupt ones, yes.
Is Elon Musk next?
Is he? Oh, I hope so. I hope his Luigi's out there somewhere.
Where does Luigi compare to, say, Nelson Mandela?
Oh, he's up there with Nelson Mandela.
All right, who's hotter, Luigi or George Floyd?
Luigi, George Floyd?
Yeah.
Luigi.
Are you ready to fight the war, man? Is Luigi the new Martin Luther King?
Yes.
Political prisoners should be supported.
Where do they find these people? And y'all, I am sorry, I'm not sorry. The question, who's hotter, Luigi or George Floyd, sent me. I laughed, I was gagged, I just cackled for minutes on end. How does he say this stuff with a straight face? You're like putting woke people in the ultimate, like, the lose-lose situation with this question. But I'm sorry, it is already insane, as I've talked about on this show extensively, to rally in support of somebody who you believe killed someone in cold blood, no trial, no due process, no crimes accused. It accomplished nothing. They've already appointed a new CEO. If anything, people just feel more sympathetic towards healthcare CEOs now than they did before. It was just kind of blatantly an act of political terror, just so you know. It is being charged as such and meets the definition of terrorism. So they're already out here rallying for terrorism. That's not a great look. But then to take it another level and say, yeah, he's like Nelson Mandela, he's like Martin Luther King Jr., actually leaves me speechless. And not a lot of things leave me speechless. It's also hilarious because he's like directly contradictory. If he did what he's accused of, then he is directly contradicting the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr., who was an advocate for social justice and for reform, specifically through nonviolent resistance, not through murder. Like, that was kind of the whole point of MLK's thing that made him different from some other people, was that he believed in non-violent resistance and protest. And y'all are saying Luigi is just like him. Either you know nothing about these historical figures, which is probably the case. Like, these people were produced by our education system after all, or you have just total inability to do like basic math, basic logic, critical thinking, no signs of life detected up there. Too much hair dye has seeped through and damaged something beneath the skull, because the two are not alike. They could not be more diametrically opposed, in fact. And if you cannot see that, then you don't need glasses. Like, you need LASIK eye surgery at this point, because something has gone terribly wrong. And I'm going to be honest, like, the FBI should probably be investigating some of these people. You shouldn't be just going on camera and saying you want Elon Musk dead. Like, you can disagree with him. You could even think he's a criminal and say that he belongs in jail. You could want to take away his government. There's so much legitimate terrain for hating on Elon Musk or hating on Trump, but it will never cease to shock and horrify me the way that these people feel comfortable with their faces showing. Many of them, some of them wore masks, but many of them just went on camera with their full face on display and said, yeah, like somebody needs to take those people out. Somebody needs to kill them. That's obviously, I think that's immoral, but it's also just like stupid. Like, you are flagging yourself to law enforcement as a potential risk. And if they are at all paying attention, they will be knocking on your door. This is a thing that happens. And y'all are only going to have yourself to blame when it does. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And guys, I know with these kind of like man on the street videos or these street protests, you can cherry pick them. You can find the craziest of the bunch. And to some extent, maybe that's what this guy does. But the deeply disturbing and honestly chilling part about this social movement, this cultural moment of Free Luigi that we are in, is that these aren't actually particularly fringe. It is a minority viewpoint, but it is shockingly widespread. A YouGov poll from December 2024 taken shortly after Thompson's death, found that 21% of U.S. adult citizens viewed Mangione either very favorably or somewhat favorably. Now, that's not a ton, but it is 1 in 5 people in America who view someone favorably who they only know in connection to his association with a brutal murder. But more importantly, when you look at young people, those 18 to 29 years old, a plurality of respondents in this category of 39% viewed Mangione positively. Only 29% viewed him very unfavorably or somewhat unfavorably. So yeah, it's not just a couple of crazies at a protest. It is a somewhat widespread societal sentiment that political terrorism is okay if it's against the people I really don't like or in the name of some cause I agree with. And I'm telling you guys, you have every right to feel upset and aggrieved by the healthcare system, by insurance companies. But if you cross the line into supporting this, you are signing your name in support of societal arson that would decay our society, destroy our rule of law, and plot us into anarchy. And it is not, absolutely not, moral or something that ever is justified by any cause. What do you guys think? Can you believe the woman who thinks that she shouldn't have been punished for killing someone? Let me know in the comments what you thought of this little journey into the world of Free Luigi, because I'm still kind of reeling from some of the delulu I just encountered. Up next, Trump just dropped a pretty wild immigration idea that I think I agree with. Let's take a listen to what the president just said about a new plan he has for immigration.
Going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. Never been done before or anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks, Howard? Do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Y'all, this is the most Trump thing I've ever heard. It's going to be a gold card. $5 million. It's like a green card, but it's for the rich. They're going to pay. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. No, my terrible impression aside, it's so Trumpian, from the branding to the price tag to everything. But I low-key think it's a good idea. I mean, if you are able to raise revenue from the government this way, from foreign citizens who want to come here, ideally we could use some of that revenue to cut taxes on Americans. And then, we have room. We have plenty of room for a couple thousand extra people at most, you'd imagine would have the money to take advantage of this program. Then they'd come here, bring tons of money that they would spend in America, bring businesses with them that would employ Americans. It seems like a win-win to me for everyone involved. They want to come to America. They're willing to pay millions of dollars to do it. They can become citizens, doesn't hurt anybody else, and they'll bring tons of economic activity, all while we raise some revenue for the federal government. I do wonder whether Trump really has the authority to enact that via executive action, or whether he would need a bill passed through Congress. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. But if he does need Congress's support, I think they should do it. The one potential drawback or issue with this idea is that you would need some vetting. Like, we don't just want any rich person coming into America. And Trump was asked about that, and the question may have caught him off guard. Take a listen.
Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford $5 million. No, a lot of people are going to want to. A lot of people are going to want to be in this country, and they'll be able to work and provide jobs and build companies and pay taxes. All of those things. It's an incredible thing. I mean, this is the group that is the first to hear it. Nobody's heard about it. Nobody ever thought about it. But we've been thinking about it very, very strongly over the last week. And I was going to announce it sometime next week, and I figured, why not? We have a lot of cameras blazing right now. We might as well do it now. We'll have Caroline announce it the next time.
So this is where he loses me a little bit. Russian oligarchs with ties to Putin probably shouldn't be included in this program. There probably needs to be a vetting process to make sure that people who potentially threaten our national security or are aligned with adversaries and adversarial states, like people associated with the Chinese Communist Party or with Putin, can't buy their way into American citizenship. That's obviously pretty problematic and potentially a threat, but I imagine, and it certainly should, that a more fleshed out version of this program, rather than just kind of an off-the-cuff announcement, will involve some sort of vetting process so that not just anybody can come here for the right price, but that if you do have the money and you are just a successful businessman or entrepreneur, I think we should welcome you, and we should sell you a green card with a path to citizenship for $5 million. Why not? I really see no downside to that, as long as some reasonable precautions are going to be taken. And I actually think that Trump should pivot more towards this in general, supporting pathways for legal immigrants and legal immigration for people who have skills and want to add value and come to this country, while also wanting to stop the border crisis and crack down on illegal immigration. Some people on the right have fallen into just being anti-all immigration, and I don't agree with that. And I think that's misguided from an economic standpoint, because immigrants can add a lot of value to an economy with new businesses and wealth and coming in and paying taxes while often being ineligible for most benefits. It is something that can really help grow our economy, and our population is unfortunately quite stagnant in its rate of growth. And we could use some immigration to supplement it so we don't end up with population decline in the coming years, which would be not good for the economy. So if he can pursue more avenues for legal immigration for successful people with skills and entrepreneurs to come here and add value, I think he should. And it will also kind of neuter some of the criticisms of him that he's anti-immigration, and he could truly say, no, I'm just anti-illegal immigration, which is where I think most Americans are. Most Americans understand that America is a country founded by immigrants and that immigrants can be a big value add, but that we need law and order and we need security and we need a secure border, and it can't be done through chaos and mass illegal migration. But that doesn't mean we should close our borders and cut off the whole world and just not allow anyone in either. There is a reasonable middle ground to be had here, and I hope that Trump pivots towards it more so in the future. But what do you guys think? Will any of you be buying a gold card? Are any of you actually that wealthy? Wow, that'd be kind of wild to have somebody in my audience who's just low-key a multi-millionaire like that. But hey, let me know. What do you think of this idea? Are you on board with it? Let me know in the comments, and do take a second to hit that like button while you're at it. And all right, everybody, that's it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please do make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet, and we'll talk again real soon.